Hi, everyone. Welcome back. So I think that this lecture is going to be one of the most important lectures for you to hear in the entire course. In this lecture, I'm going to share some real life tips and tricks to opening your own childcare business and also talk about things that I wish that I knew when I started my childcare. So first off, I want to talk about experience in the field. It is so important that you have some sort of experience in the childcare industry, whether it's a degree in early childhood education or experience working in the classroom. So even if you plan on being an administrator and you don't plan on teaching at all in the classroom, I highly recommend you spend a little bit of time volunteering in a classroom at least, or getting some sort of real world experience, because this kind of work is so nuanced and so many really little situations come up that are so specific to working with children, to working with families, that the more experience you have as either a preschool teacher, a toddler teacher, an assistant or aide in a classroom, it's going to help you so much in starting this business, and mainly in the area of policies and procedures, because you don't know what you don't know, and so many little things come up with kids. Illnesses, kids getting sick, kids fighting, spitting, hitting each other, parent issues, issues with family dynamics, so many little things beyond just the curriculum of early childhood education. So that's my first tip, is getting some sort of real world experience is going to go so far and help you a lot. The next thing is having very solid policies and procedures from the get-go. Now, if you don't have any policies and procedures to start with, there are a lot of great resources online, and you can also contact your local childcare resource agency, and they may have some free resources to give you. So those are things like, how are you going to create a behavior management plan if you do have a child who's having behavioral issues? What about a special needs plan? What if you have a parent who wants to enroll their child and their child is in a wheelchair? How will you navigate those situations? So starting in the beginning with really solid policies and procedures is going to help protect you as a business owner, and it's going to help all of those unexpected situations, because again, you don't know what's going to come up until you don't know. And the number of times as a childcare provider, I've tried to preempt situations only to be surprised that, oh, this is now a new situation that I never thought I was going to be in or deal with. These things come up. Other sorts of things are, as childcare providers, we're mandated reporters of child abuse and neglect. So I have had to, as a childcare provider, report to DHS twice in the past for child abuse and neglect. And that's a hard thing to do, right? To have a child tell you that something's going on in the home, and knowing that it is your ethical obligation and legal obligation to report that to childcare licensing or to the Department of Human Services. And it's hard. So being trained on that, making sure your staff is trained on that, knowing what the policies and procedures are going to be for who makes that call. Are you going to inform the parent that you had to call DHS about something? What are you going to do so it's not a surprise when it happens and you can just follow the procedures? Other things are like administering medication. What is your process with that? What if you have a child with a severe allergy? What if you have to administer an EpiPen? There are just so many situations, and you want to make sure all of these things are covered in advance in your policies and procedures handbook, that you're trained and understand how to do it. Anyone else, any other adults, be it volunteers, your spouse, teachers that you're hiring, substitutes, that they all know this, and that it's your responsibility as the business owner to train everyone on this and make sure that they fully understand it. So that's my next tip. That's going to help you preempt situations, have really good policies and procedures in place. And I'm not going to give you any specific handouts on that, because you need to make sure that your policies and procedures are in line with your own state or your own governing agency agency's licensing rules. So I live in the state of Oregon. I need to make sure that my policies and procedures are in line with Oregon state licensing. So that's why I can't give you mine. I want to make sure that you are legally doing everything to the T. So that's up to you to investigate with your own governing bodies. So this kind of goes into the next tip I have, which is that, and I know this is really hard to hear, the parents are not your friends. They're your clients. And I've seen a lot of childcare providers get burned in the past because they love the parents, and maybe some of these parents are your friends or your neighbors or maybe even your cousin. But at the end of the day, these are clients. These are clients who are giving you money. They are exchanging money for a service, and you are providing the service of childcare. And what I have found, and what I know other childcare providers have found, and talking to licensors about this, is the parents are only your friends until something goes wrong. And when something goes wrong, suddenly this person who you think is your friend could be suing you. And I do know childcare providers who have gotten sued for children slipping on the ice on their property. I know one childcare provider who got sued by a parent because she took the children on a field trip and they did get into a car accident on the way to the field trip. And that parent, who she felt very close with and thought was her friend, sued her. So it's okay to have friendly relationships with the parents, but know that these are your clients. And that's why, again, it is up to you as the business owner to enforce your policies and procedures. Nobody's going to do that for you. You've got to do that. You've got to protect yourself. And that's protecting yourself with your policies, protecting yourself by writing all of this into the parent handbook and parent contract and making sure every single parent reads it and signs it. That is going to protect you. Do not do anything on just a handshake. Do not do anything on a verbal agreement. It's going to backfire, trust me. So you want to protect yourself. You want to preempt yourself. You want to get business insurance. And I also highly recommend having some relationship with some lawyer in your area that you know you can go to if anything does come up. So if a problem does arise, you're not scrambling. What I did, for example, with my childcare is I pre-selected a lawyer and just kept that lawyer on retainer. So I knew that if I needed anything, I could contact that lawyer. And I actually had the lawyer look over my tuition contract and make sure that everything looked good and everything would hold up in court before I gave that tuition contract to parents. So you can do things like that, because know again that if shit really does hit the fan, pardon my French, but if it does, no one else is going to be stepping in to help you. It's up to you as the business owner. So what that means is if you have a parent who doesn't pay you tuition for 3 months, it's up to you to deal with that. It's up to you to take that parent to small claims court. It's up to you to charge the late fee. It's up to you to say, hey, I can no longer watch your child because you're not paying me. And nobody else is going to do that for you. That is the responsibility of the business owner. The other thing I want to say related to this is 90, and I know I'm talking about a lot of bad scenarios out here, but 95% of your clients are going to be great. So I have really found in the past from personal experience that 95% of the families in my care, 95% of the children are lovely, are just lovely. I love their children. It's been a beautiful process, but you're always going to have that hard client, whether it's the child or the parent. And I'm telling you, 95% of your headaches are going to come from just 5% of your clients. So it's just an unfortunate truth. It can be stressful. I mean, the number of times I have just been up at night, stressed or not able to sleep, losing sleep over situations. Like, unfortunately, it's just something that happens with work in this field. And I think it happens because if you think about it, parents are entrusting their children to us. And that is their most prized, precious possession, right? So this is a trust relationship. This is a business that operates and runs on trust first and foremost. And we need to make sure that number one, we feel comfortable as the business owner and the childcare provider with that client and with that trust relationship. And that's something too that you need to know, that you have the right to say, hey, I don't think this is a good fit, if you don't feel comfortable with that parent and with that trust relationship. And you're like, this parent really seems like they're going to be in that 5% who's going to cause me horrible headaches and cause me to lose sleep. And I don't feel that they trust me. I don't feel that this feels right. This is the whole reason why we give tours. This is the whole reason why you can do trial days, or you can write in your contract that enrollment is based on a 30-day trial basis. We're going to see how it goes the first 30 days, or you can do a week or 2 weeks, whatever you want to do. You can write something like that in the contract, letting them know, hey, we're going to do some sort of trial with your child. We're going to then talk and make sure it's a good fit, and that this needs to be a mutual good fit on both sides for both parties. Because I'm telling you, otherwise, like sometimes if you accept in that child who the parent, you're like, I don't know, they seem really demanding. It doesn't seem like they trust me. I don't know if this is going to work out. I mean, you could be losing sleep for the next year and a half with this family with just nonstop headaches. So things to think about. I will say, as a little disclaimer, you got to check with your state licensing laws, because I know some states have rules on whether or not you can exclude children, whether or not you can expel children and have them leave your program. So just so that you don't get in any legal trouble, you need to check with your state. Also know that there are protections for ADA. So children with special needs, children with certain disabilities may have certain protections under law where you can't refuse enrollment. So you need to look into the legality of that. And that's why sometimes checking these things over with a lawyer can be really, really helpful. So I'm going to move on to the next point here. And the next one is that sorry goes a long way. So as I've said over the years, being a childcare provider, I mean, the number of just wild things I've seen happen. I saw one boy walking in the grass, trip over his own 2 feet and break his arm. I had another small child who was 3 who was running to catch a ball and slammed his head into a tree and gashed his head open and was bleeding, and he had to go to the hospital. I mean, these things happen. There was another situation where, and this was actually my boss was not maintaining things properly. I was working at a childcare, and we had a playhouse, and the playhouse roof was broken and unhinged, and she didn't fix it and address it. And so a bunch of the little kids were under the playhouse pushing up on the roof, and a little girl's finger got chopped off. Yeah, that happened. And I was shocked that that mom didn't sue my boss, because her daughter's finger got chopped off and had to get sewed back on. And that was directly neglect on my boss's part for not fixing that. So situations happen. This is, again, why you need to have insurance to cover you, but also you need to preempt things. You need to do maintenance check, and you need to just know that sometimes, in order to help de-escalate a situation, sorry goes a long way. Just saying, hey, I owned up to that, and I'm sorry, that was my fault. One example that I have when I was running my childcare is I had a chicken coop area, and I was always very, very careful about counting heads, making sure how many children were in the chicken coop area, etc. But one day I took 4 children into the chicken coop. We went and got the eggs. We played with the chickens, and then I took them out of the chicken coop. The kids spent the rest of the time playing in the play yard, and then I brought them all in. Well, guess what? I forgot one of the children in the chicken coop area, and they were locked in there and yelling for help. And they were only out there for about 10 minutes, but 10 minutes is still a pretty long time. And I was mortified, of course. I went out and got the child and was like, I'm so sorry. And so I knew it was my duty to get ahead of this situation by reporting it, so this didn't snowball into a worse situation. So as soon as that parent came and picked up, I directly told her what happened. I said, this is what happened. This is how long your child was in the chicken coop. I apologize profusely. I completely take responsibility that this was my error. and it will never happen again. And these are all the steps that I'm putting in place to ensure that it will never happen again. And as a result, that I de-escalated that situation, the parent understood, and it never turned into an issue. So had I not done that, or had I been like, well, I'm just not going to tell the parent, that child would have gone home and told their parent, and I might have gotten licensing called on me. I might have gotten sued. I might have gotten this parent writing all these bad things about me on social media or something. I don't know. So just know that just saying sorry, owning up to something, and then telling them how you're going to remedy the situation can really, really save you in the end. Next little bit, since I mentioned social media and things, that's another big tip is you really want to think about what your plan's going to be about posting pictures of children, whether you're going to have social media accounts, whether you're going to let teachers do that, because that's a whole thing. Are you going to let teachers babysit for the families at the school? What if they get invited to the birthday parties? What's the line going to be there? Are you going to have photo releases and video releases for the students? And also, are you going to let the parents have each other's contact information? And this is a sticky one because I will mention another story. There was a situation in a different school, the town over from me, where they had a disgruntled parent, and that parent did have everybody's email address at the school because when the administrator sent out emails, she just CC'd everybody. And that parent who was disgruntled and left the program wrote a nasty, slanderous email to all of the parents in the entire school, just like demonizing the school owner. So she told me when this happened, she's like, gosh, I wish I never shared the email addresses of the parents. I should have just done BCC instead of CC. So that's my other tip for you is I would not share that information. I always just did BCC. And if parents wanted other parents' contact information, like for a birthday party, I just told them they had to maybe pursue that themselves. They could put a little note by the sign-in sheet saying, hey, I'm having a birthday party. Here's the invite, contact me directly, because I just didn't want to be part of that chain. And in terms of teachers at the school, I always told them that you can't have your personal phones or personal devices in the classroom. I had a designated classroom phone that they could take pictures of that would link up with our Brightwheel account. And we used Brightwheel as a secure portal to post those student photos to share with parents. Okay, so moving on, my next tip is get everything in writing. So if you do have any issues with parents and you need to sit down and have difficult conversations, you want to make sure you have a written record. So I recommend either having email records, or if you do have to have a parent, come into your office and you're talking to them, take notes and then send them a meeting summary afterwards and just say, hey, this is a summary of the notes that I have. Does this look good to you? Do you agree with what we have in these notes, and come to a mutual agreement? You just want that record because in case anything happens and they wind up calling licensing on you or making a, insurance claim against you for something, have a written record. Next is focus on safety and cleanliness. So you as the business owner should make your own checklist for all the facility maintenance, all the things you need to be license compliant, and do a walkthrough of your facility. And I would do mine about once a month. So once a month walkthrough of your facility. Make sure no nails are sticking out of the fence. Make sure everything is in good working order. None of the bicycles are broken. You don't have fruit out in the kitchen that there's fruit flies in the kitchen that a parent's going to see when they walk in the door or come on a tour. So doing those regular maintenance checks are going to let you get on top of things and stay on top of things and keep everything compliant. And those things matter because it's more than just, I have to stay compliant because I'm going to have a once a year licensing visit. It's about staying compliant so that when parents come for tours, your facility looks fabulous and they want to enroll in it. And it's about staying compliant so that when parents are coming in the door and dropping off their child every day, they see that there's a high quality and standard of safety and cleanliness being maintained in your facility. So also build that into your budget, know that that's an expense. The next thing is hire quality staff and train them properly. Invest the money and invest the time in training your staff. And this is another place I see so many schools just skimp out on and don't do. And I get it. Staffing is going to be your number one cost. It just is. Staffing and payroll, that's going to be where your number one business expenses are going to come from. The second most expensive is probably going to be the facility, your rent, or your mortgage, right? So I know that we're all looking to save money and hire a teacher on the cheap, but again, it's going to lead to headaches. And what's $1 or $2 more an hour when it comes to getting a really high quality teacher who you can trust versus somebody who doesn't have any experience, that then the parents are unhappy, there's issues with the program, you have teachers quitting on you, etc. So get experienced teachers, or if they don't have all the training and experience that they should have, it is your job and responsibility as a boss and a manager to invest the time, to invest the money, training this person, educating this person, making sure that they are fully equipped to do their job right. And to manage this person, you should be doing employee reviews. So every 6 months, you should be sitting down with this employee. How are they doing? Where do they need to improve? You should be sitting and observing them in the classroom and taking notes, right? So this is all built in. This is all part of being a boss, being an administrator, if you're going to have any staff. Next is make sure you also treat your staff well. So burnout is high. This is just a field where burnout is high. And again, investing all that time and money in staff, you want them to stay. It's devastating when you spend all your time training someone and then 6 months later they quit. So how can you keep your staff happy? The number one way is give them benefits. So I'm talking paid time off, I'm talking health benefits, maybe vision and dental, and also retirement savings. So there may be programs in your area that you can tap into to help supplement some of these things. So I know, for example, in Oregon, we have a program called Oregon Saves, so that if I, as an employer, can't afford that retirement plan, I can get my employees signed up with Oregon Saves, and it's a matching program with the state. And then also, I can help them get insurance from the state marketplace insurance. And maybe instead of me having to have the insurance plan, I just say, hey, your paycheck's going to include an extra $150 that goes toward the medical insurance of your choice. So you can do something like this. But this is why you want to do that cost of care. You need to build in all those costs and make sure you're charging enough in tuition, and you're not just matching your tuition rates with the DHS subsidy rates, because you got to give your employees more than just a wage. You really need to give them benefits so they stick around. And the other thing you need to give them is class prep time. You cannot expect a teacher to show up for work at 8 a.m. and the kids are there at 8 a.m. You need to be able to give them at least a half an hour to come in before the children arrive, set up the classroom, clean everything, make the snack, and that's going to make the teacher feel better and less stressed. And that's also going to make the parents feel better, because nobody likes walking into a facility and dropping off their child and the teacher's not even paying attention because she's like in the kitchen making the snack. I had one parent, for example, who was a friend of mine, who said, yeah, she pulled her child out of a childcare she enrolled in because every time she came to pick up her child, the teacher was vacuuming around the children and not paying any attention. And that teacher was doing that because the teacher wasn't getting paid to do the end of the day cleanup. And so she was doing it while the children were still there. So instead, how can you make sure that your teachers are happy and fully present when the children are there? And then when the facility closes and all the children go home, they have time to do their teacher prep. That's when the cleaning should happen. That's when the chairs go on top of the table and you start mopping. That's when you can sharpen all the pencils and cut out all the cards or laminate stuff for the next class. So those are all my points there. And then the very, very last thing I'm going to leave you with is trust. The word trust. This is an industry that operates and revolves around trust. So you want to build trust with those families. And there's a number of ways you can do that. You can build trust by sending out parent newsletters with different childcare or different topics about child development. You can build trust by sending out photos and updates. You can build trust by having different events at your program and social events, parent information nights, guest speakers, all of those different things. But know at the end of the day, when a parent chooses to enroll their child in your facility, they're enrolling their child because they like that person, whether it's you or whether it's your teachers and staff. They are trusting whoever that person is who's receiving their child with open arms. And this whole relationship is going to operate off of that trust and building that trust. So that's where I'm going to leave you. I hope these tips and tricks have been helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.